Well, thanks you guys for coming on here. Welcome to our therapy sessions with the writers and producers. So this is fun. This is the Tennessee team that we had, Nashville. We wrote those songs. For those who'd be watching this, I wrote in 3 different locations in Los Angeles, LA, in London, and in Nashville, where we all reside, which is why I wore this shirt, actually. I'm not a soccer player. I just found it at Goodwill, and I liked it because
I love it.
Jerseys are comfortable, and I was like, all right, Tennessee. Even though when I was at the airport one time, like dropping off my car, and the guy who takes the car was just like, he's like, what year did you play? He's like, I played too. I was just like,
you should have gone with it. Been like, I'm a forward. Yeah.
See, I don't even know what that is. I'm so clueless about sports. I don't know that forward. That now I know what that is. Just
like I'm the quarterback of the thing.
I'm a quarterback. Oh yeah, I was a quarterback. You probably no, but it's great to chat with y'all. We wrote 2 songs together that are on this album. I mean, we've written more songs than that together, but on this album, Therapy Sessions, we had 2 of the songs that people actually heard before the whole album came out, because we had Paralyzed, which is the first song on the album that came out last August, actually. So this has been crazy. And that was the first song. I think that was the song that was first written of the bunch that are on Therapy Sessions. And then Just Breathe was one of the last songs that I wrote for this album. I don't even remember when that was. Does anyone remember?
I could look back in my voice memos and probably find out.
Okay.
Yeah, it felt like, I don't know, it felt like it was yesterday and 100 years ago all at once. So
right.
Where was it? Let's see. Paralyzed. I'm sure I have it in here.
Okay. In the meantime, I'm gonna connect one of the other writers named Kyle showed me how to connect the audio so that we could share the audio together. So I'm going to do that right now so that we can listen to a bit of the song. Unless Nate, you have your studio actually, so maybe you should be the one playing some of the snip. I'll play a bit of the song, and then when we look at the track, if you have anything you'd like to show in the process of building the tracks, because Nate is such a rad track creator. So we'd love to. So let's start with the first song we did, Paralyzed, first song on the album, first song written.
I hold on and I should let go. I wait, I think when I really know we should have been washed away a million years ago. I wake up to another day, another chance to get out of my own way. I can't move and wonder why I'm paralyzed by the pool.
All right, let's go up to that point. So I was only gonna play the verse, but I just I mean the very
I know,
first
it's impossible to not groove to that song.
Yeah. So let's talk about it. This was the first day that the 3 of us got into a room. I worked with you, Isabeau, on my last album, Postcards in the Sky. We wrote Spotlight Down and Up All Night with your now husband, Sean.
Yeah.
And
Shine a Light.
And Shine a Light. We wrote all of those with Sean, and we wrote Spotlight Down with Cammie Nilsson, who introduced us, Camille. But and then Nate, we had written one song prior. Well, maybe it was more. Yeah. But I know one that we wrote that was You and Me that maybe will be released in the future. But as far as therapy sessions, then I was like, it'd be fun to have Isabeau and Nate together because it just fun, y'all. Isabeau's such a master top liner, which a top liner is in songwriting is someone who does lyrics and melody, basically, on that side. And then Nate is such a great track guy, which is all the production, all the sounds, the chords, what we write the melody and lyrics on top of. And so Nate, you already had this track built out when we came into the room. You had elements already there. Like, what do you want to talk about, like where that began? Because Paralyzed began with you before. I mean, I guess we all brought little pieces beforehand, but you had the track already built before Isabeau and I came.
Yeah, I actually remember we didn't have anything built at the time. I remember it was like 2 or 3 hours where we were just hanging out and talking and getting to know each other. And I actually remember, I definitely remember pulling up a patch. And if anybody's familiar with Contact, it was what was it called? I'll have to remember. It's one of the piano patches. But so I started playing some chords, and then I remember David, you kind of sat with me on coming up with some of the chords for it. And I remember we kind of went off that. So I remember there's actually one specific chord that I remember that you kind of took it to. And I was like, that's kind of cool. And so I went with that. And then I started building the drums to it. And that's when you guys started digging into the top line. If I remember everything right.
You probably are. I've found from these Zoom chats with other writers that I have horrible memory. They'd be like, actually, and I was like, oh,
I remember Nate like not talking for the first 2 hours of the session while you and I were just like, so about therapy, like,
right. We were totally
let's talk about therapy. And I left and I was like, Nate is never going to want to write with me again because I literally, like, he didn't talk the entire time. I don't even know if he likes me.
Yeah, I'm super quiet. So
yes, Nate usually is in his own little, like, in the room and is there digging into the track, developing it. Even when I came over, like, the first time, like, we didn't really talk a lot, Nate. You were just there, like, doing stuff on the track, and I would, like, lay on the floor in your studio, and
Barbie will be licking your hair.
Barbie will be licking my hair. Yes. So that's totally. Thanks for reminding me of that then, because I just totally spaced. And so then the conversation for Paralyzed, I mean, we've got to give for this melody and lyric. We've got to give, I mean, the credit to Isabeau on this melody and lyric. How quickly, like, when we started, we spent a lot of time talking, which is usually what happens with songwriting, at least in my songwriting process. Like, we talk a lot about what is the story, what are we building this on, and then as we're finished talking, sometimes we even talk for like 2 hours before we get to like the song.
I think we talked for at least 2 hours.
At least 2 hours.
Like this right, and we don't do that every right, but this right, I remember, like, I was like, we might not write today, we might just like catch up, and which was fine, except I felt bad because I think it was the first time Nate and I met, and I was like, he is gonna think that all I do is talk. That is my talent. It's not wrong, honestly.
No, because then you don't just talk, you tell. And that's why you told the story of Paralyzed so well. So we were talking, let's go back to this.
I hold on and I should let go. I wait, I think when I really know.
I mean, there's so much being said just in that line, and there's so much, like, this is what's so great, y'all. When we talk, and for example, like Isabeau, we'll be talking about all the things going through therapy or in my head or frustrations or everything going on in our lives, the decisions we're making and all that. And then as we spend 2 hours talking, then Isabeau will be like, okay. And she's like, okay, when you said this, I wrote this down. And then you basically spit out the entire, like, within like less than 10 minutes, it felt like, all of a sudden, when we started working on the song, you spit out the entire verse and chorus.
Well,
Like,
I
the
feel
whole
like
thing.
we've talked about before that more than anything, like my job when I'm in a room with you is to just be your translator. Because you're like, I feel like this and this and this and this, and everyone's kind of like, okay, but what does that mean to you? And you're like, Isabeau, what's it mean to me?
Because
And
like I'm always like, yes, that is I was like, that is what I wanted to say, just because
yeah, but
I'm not
you had a very, that day you had a very specific, I mean, you were on a mission that day to share this experience of your life and to share your experience dipping into therapy, which I am a huge fan of. And so we, you know, we volleyed back and forth on therapy for a while, but I think we talked about different kinds of therapy and, you know, breaking things. And so it was very visual what we were talking about. And I think that's why Paralyzed, like, it feels very visual to me. And that's why I think the video was such a natural lead in, because it was from the get-go, even our just conversations and catching up were very, I mean, it was almost like watching a Paralyzed video before the song was even written, before the video was made. Like, we could feel all of that. So yeah, it's cool.
right. And I, you know, what I love about it is, I think something that I've learned from my own therapy is how hard sometimes you get into these bad habits, which you know are affecting you in a negative way, and you're going to therapy to fix them. But as you're going to therapy, you realize the struggle, because there's a part of you, an unhealthy, it's like it's grown comfortable with your bad habit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I love about this first line, is saying, like, I hold on when I should let go. It's like I want to let go, but then at the same time I don't. It's like I've gotten it's like this strange addiction to this unhealthy holding, like freezing up, guarding yourself, putting these walls around you, and keeping yourself in with your own fears. Basically, it's like I'm going to surround myself with my fears and put this fake safety bubble of fear around me to prevent anything from happening. And so what I've loved about therapy is I've had to learn how to face that and work through it and shift that fear around, that those walls that I've grown so comfortably uncomfortable with. And so so I love just the way that opens. And then I wait, I think, when I really know. It's like I already have intuitively, because we talk a lot about that in our conversations. It's like we have this intuitive side guiding us, but yet we kind of look at it and listen to it as we stay holding on to overthinking things and be like, but what if this and what if that, and start getting these irrational fears when we kind of already secretly know, like, but take a chance, go for this, go through that feeling of, whew, like, that's could be scary, but it's
What's so interesting too is, having worked on Postcards in the Sky with you on some of the songs there, those songs, like, they had a longer birth, you know, it took a little bit longer to get to them. And what's so interesting about that line, I wait and think when I really know, is you did the opposite of that in this writing process, at least the two songs with us. Like, those songs, we may have spent a long time in the room together, but those songs, you didn't wait and think, because you actually knew. Like, you came in, you had a mission, and it was like mission accomplished pretty quickly, I feel like, on getting to the heart of what you wanted to say, which I think shows your growth and shows the value of this time you've spent in therapy, like learning to trust yourself and trust your gut. And I think, you know, these songs just materialized really quickly because they were definitely given to us to channel into the world, and your message was just so clear.
Well, thanks, Isabeau. Well, thanks for making the message clear.
Hey, I just facilitated.
It's like playing charades, but I feel like Isabeau is the ultimate charades guesser. When I'm playing charades, I'm like, it looks like this, but it's like you understand my language, which I don't use like concise, clear sentences to describe what I'm going through. And for some reason you understand that language, which is a blessing. It's such a blessing. So
Isabeau is really, oh, sorry, what were you gonna say?
go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, just to jump on that, Isabeau is just, every time we've been in the room, she's just so good at being that translator for everyone. It's just so cool. She can just, whatever the artist is thinking about, she's able to just pull that from their head and just put it in this just very profound meaning, or just put a really just cool spin on it. She's just a master with her lyrics.
Thank you.
And,
But I mean, to credit you guys though, I mean, unless everyone in the room is open, that's not easy to do. But every time I walk into a room with you guys, like, I mean, I think you both are really good, like, muses and channelers. Like, you know, I may have the socket, but you guys are the plug. So, you know, without the combination, it doesn't work. So it's, but it is super fun. And for me, it is like a channeling process. It's, you know, it's looking at somebody and really being open to the messages that are being received, and from them and from whatever source the music comes from, you know?
So it's like,
oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's like Nate and I speak the unspoken languages. Like we don't use so much like typical just sentences. Nate, you use so much, you express so much through the sounds you find and you build and put together. And I just do some sort of charades thing with speaking and hand gestures and all that. But
you bring the seed. You
and
bring
then,
the seed, and
and
I
then,
water it, and then Nate like makes it into this beautiful thing.
yes. Yeah. What were you going to say, Nate?
What was I gonna say? I think I totally forgot. If anyone is curious, I have, it's so crazy, the whole process of creating Paralyzed.
Yeah.
I'm looking at all the different iterations and backup files that we had, and it's kind of crazy how much, if you guys want to see it real quick.
Please do.
I'm not sure how to flip this thing around. Maybe there's a way. Wait. Here we go. I had it. Come on. So that's kind of all the different, each one of those is a file. Either it's a backup or it's something where we took another look at Paralyzed. But it's, I mean, all the way down to this 002. I didn't know what we were calling the song at the time we first started working on it. So for whatever reason, that's what I titled it. And then it's all the way up to the last session there. That was the final print for when we send it up to mix.
Nice.
But yeah.
That's cool. Do you have any sounds? Do you have any sounds, Nate? Like yeah. What were the first sounds you used to build the rest of the track around?
Let's see. I'm pulling it up right now.
All right.
Let's see if it'll play nicely.
The neighbor kids are outside playing, so you might hear some kids. By the pool of the tide that I'm under. It's funny, like seriously, I feel like you wrote I feel like Isabeau wrote the entire verse and chorus in like.
you know me though, you know, like I disappear and I'm like, hold on.
Yeah.
Like, okay, what about this for a verse? And because, you know, like to me that's how it comes. And right. You know, I like to they have this phrase like write drunk, edit sober. We were not drinking, for the record, at all. But it's that kind of thing. Like you have to write uninhibited and then go back and you know, and use the chisel. But at first you just have to get it out.
Yes. Oh.
Fine. Okay, so I don't have the. Oh wait, maybe this is the original patch. I'm trying to find the. Yeah. Oh no.
I remember that.
Oh, Unicorda, I think is what it's called. But that was the original piano it was made on.
Nice.
Maybe I'll turn it around so you can actually see.
Yes, show us.
So let me see here. So I actually did end up printing down that's the original piano. Trying to see, I remember, so you can kind of see there's like the whole session, kind of the very beginning of it.
Right.
And you can just see how disorganized I am.
That's not what I see. I see like a language I have no idea how to speak.
Here's some of that.
Yeah.
So those are the original drums.
Nate always has such sick beat.
And that's the thing about Nate is like, he's just like making some sounds and you're like, okay, whatever. I've never seen anybody build a track in front of me like the way he does. Like it's just like,
oh, thank you.
Yeah, he just like does this, he touches the thing and this button and you hear a few sounds and like at first you're like, what's going on over there? Like, is he just playing around? And then all of a sudden he's like, here's the track. There you go.
Yeah.
So there's some in there. You can hear some sounds that were either buried in the final or taken out altogether.
Right.
There's like some random guitar stuff. Let me see. Yeah, so that stuff ended up staying in the final.
Cool.
But yeah.
This is awesome to see as well. I think it's great to show people like the beginnings of a song. And so then Nate is building that track. So he'll start building that, which is a lot of times what will happen when you're in a room with a producer, songwriter, like they'll start building the track. And then that's a lot of times we'll be having the conversation over the song. And I think it kind of like helps you settle in what the story is as you're talking over it. It's almost like you start, your conversation starts aligning and connecting with the sounds that you're hearing, like Nate make. And so, but then, and then let's look at the chorus here.
Washed away a million to another chance to can't move and wonder why. I'm paralyzed by the pull of the child that I'm under, by the strength, by the sound of the thunder, by the force, by the fear of the waking, the crash of the waves that could rip me away.
So I feel like that entire melody and lyric was done by Isabeau, and then I added at the end of it, oh.
I don't think that's true. I think that it's all your sentiment. And I think we worked together on it. I think, it was all you actually. It was just all embedded in the 2-hour conversation we had before we started writing. So that's the thing, is that it was pulled from things that I heard you say. I mean, did you say like, I'm paralyzed, by, and the crash of the waves that will bring me away? No, like you didn't say those words, but you talked a lot about feeling like, and I just don't know sometimes like how to move forward. And I'm afraid if I do this and without like diving into your therapy session, so that, some things are sacred. But I mean, honestly, you were very exposing on these songs about what you've been feeling and going through. And I mean, all of these are you.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Yeah. Maybe I exclude myself a lot, but you can see how important these conversations are in the songwriting process. It's like part of my therapy sessions wasn't just going to see a therapist. It was like the writing rooms were the therapy sessions in themselves. You know, they were part of the therapy, like going
Well,
and
and I think it's important that people understand that like not every artist comes into a room ready to do that. Like some artists come into a room and they're like, I want to write a hit. And you're like, I don't know what that means. And those are the hardest writes, because those are people that are like, they don't feel passionate about having something to say. They feel passionate about accomplishing something. And you have always come into the room from the first time we met. You've come into the room and you've had a story to tell, even with postcards where I feel like you weren't quite sure if you should tell the story. And then like over time, the evolution was like, nope, this is my story. This is my truth. I'm going to own it. And that's kind of where you've ended up in this album, which is really a cool progression to watch. But I mean, that really speaks to your ability to be authentic and to come in not with a mission to get on the radio, to win a Grammy, to do this, to do that. You come in and you write songs that, in my opinion, end up mattering. And that's why they touch people as deeply as they do, because everybody experiences these emotions. It's just not everybody wants to talk about them.
Right. Well, thank you. Thanks. I appreciate that. And I guess that is interesting. Well, and I think that's why I'm so thrilled about how this whole album turned out. You know, beginning with Paralyzed, it sounds so good. It sounds so fresh. You get the abilities and skills of other people, you know, the tracks of Nate's and the putting words together like Isabeau but we're not, you know, the main focus is just telling the story. And I love that with that focus in mind, just telling, like, how do we say this and express this? And then it just turned out sounding so good and sounding fresh too. It was just a great bonus. Well, I mean, it was just made the whole just so satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
It was really nice. Let's look at the second verse real quick here.
Perfect, the shattered glass.
So it cuts deep.
The shattered glass. Perfect picture frames I once had. Trying to rise up from the ash. Breaking myself from these chains that I'm making. The anchors here holding me down. Breaking myself from these chains that I'm making.
So there's some cool little imagery stuff there. Rising up from the ashes like a phoenix. It cuts deep. Like I love the image, the symbolism there, because it's like we're talking about the perfect pictures of the past that you have, but it shatters and you're getting hurt from your past.
Well, at that point we were talking about a very specific kind of therapy too. I don't know if you remember. We were talking about like literally smashing things, and that's where that again, like that was you, like it was pulled from your stories, but it just happens to make a great metaphor too. But it wasn't actually a metaphor when we wrote it. It was literal. It was, you know, talking about how just the act of physically smashing things sometimes, because there are places now that are offering this as therapy, how that can be such a release, and to just physically wreck things, you know, it can be so helpful.
And that's what's interesting. So yeah, I was in part of our conversation, I was talking about my smash segment, the segment of my therapy that was smashing stuff, smash therapy, and how when I was smashing, you just kind of get lost in it. Once you get in the zone, and suddenly you have these cuts on you because you don't realize all the little pieces of glass and shards that are flying around, cutting your legs and stuff. So make sure, you know, wear proper
protection. Don't do it at home, kids.
Don't do what I did and let it cut your legs and stuff. But at the same time, it was just interesting. So I love that. And then I do remember coming up, I don't remember what the process. I think it was just hearing the rhythm. And when I heard the rhythm in the track that Nate had built, I just started going, breaking myself from these chains that dun, 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 dun. Like it just showed like this, the kind of just the kind of building up. And because Paralyzed is a venting song, it's getting out this really almost angry frustration. I mean, yeah, angry frustration with yourself, with your own mind, and how it's keeping you in this cage. So that's where that bum 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 bum, which then comes back in the bridge, just repeating itself over and over.
Breaking myself from these chains that I'm making, the anchors here holding me down.
But yeah, so because those are the pieces that we've got a little. There's just a lot of great things. This is so fun because this, like I said, this was the first song written that is on the album. So it's so fun to take a look back at it with the writers back in the room where Nate currently is. That's where we were when we wrote the song. So there's Paralyzed, y'all.
Nice.
With Isabeau Miller and Nate Dodge. So thanks, y'all.